When purchasing property, all cash, what are the steps to not publicly record it, and how is the deed structured? That's like a loaded, huge hour question, and you have to have docs, and it depends on the county recorder. And I've actually gone pretty in depth. And so Tracy, on that question, if you could send her some of our real estate related questions so that she can dig. In a nutshell, I'm going to give you some very top looking down without knowing the details answers. And mind you, I am a licensed real estate broker in California. I'm probably considered an expert at transactions in a local, in a county recorder or in loans or what have you. I've done every element of real estate transactions, mostly on the loan side. And that's really the most important side in getting anything done with in reference to a sale of a house or a purchase of a house. So your question is, how do you do a private purchase? Well, when you're dealing with a seller, this is the problem. You're both getting original deeds. Okay. If you don't record your deed, which you have every right to not record a deed, it's one of the questions on the broker's exam. And you have to ask yourself, what are the ramifications? Well, what's going to happen when this guy gets another bill? He's going to send them the deed. They're going to stamp it, thank you, and send it back to him. So now you've got a recorded deed, so it doesn't work. The only way is if you can control both ends of the transaction. So you got to purchase first, and then you got to sell it to yourself again to a private trust. And there's many things that have to be done, and they fight. They fight it because they know what you're doing. There is no law that requires you to record a property in the county recorder. As a matter of fact, you can look up what is a counter deed in Black's law. And a counter deed is a private unrecorded deed that trumps the recorded deed when presented. And this is wise because people have a right and an obligation, if they want to keep their business private, to not record something into the county recorder's office. But today they're doing stuff different with you're not, the deeds of the old days, were buy gold, buy hand, and there's stuff that we share with people. And Tracy just posted the real estate related stuff inside the chat. Buy gold, buy hand for valuable consideration using meets and bounds fee simple. Look up fee simple. It's absolute title. We help people all the time. If they need to do a deed, we ask them to go get a deed. We charge for it. It's not very expensive, but we ask them to go get a deed from their local county. Every county is a little bit different. They bring us a PDF. We doctor up the PDF. That's not a negative word. It's not a fraudulent word. Why? Because they accept the way that we do it, and they recorded it, and it's because it's a lawful way to record. What people are doing today is FRNs. They're including the government on every transaction that they do. They're using a legal description that is not land. It's above the land. They're basically a recording as a joint tenant or tenant in common, and that's not ownership at all. And if you read it, you understand it. It's a tenant. You're a tenant, and you're not a freehold estate. And there's just many mistakes on deeds that people don't know. And so there's a couple different things as well that you should take into consideration, even when you finally do end up recording that way. I get it. You're trying to get out of taxes. That's not an issue. You're also trying to, when you unrecord, it's the same thing as sitting on a land patent, because the only thing underneath the general recorder's office in Orange County or any other county are the patents that all those recordings sit on. And so people are always trying to affect and bring forward a patent or accept a patent. Patents of trust, there's a grantor, there's a grantee, and those are called assigns. And you're not an assign on a patent, but you can get the same. And that's why I'm saying, don't try to record a portion of a patent, or don't try to accept a portion of a patent, because people are taking these patents and then they're showing that they have ownership rights as a land patent, and then they record that in the county recorder. And I've seen people have a color of law of help. I've seen people get hurt. I've seen people get arrested. So I don't go down that road, because it's somebody else's patent. Unless you're an obvious family member that is a true assign or true right to that patent, there's a simple way to sit on that patent, and by unrecording the property from the county recorders. And all those counties have a form. And if you're living in the private process, we give you a copy of a FOIA request that you can ask them for that form. But they know what you're going to do with that. They don't want to give you the form to unrecord the property. You can only by the way, for everybody listening, you can only unrecord a property that is without encumbrance, meaning no loans, no liens, no mechanics liens, free. And then a lot of times I want you to use their form. And if they don't, by force and effect, you change ownership. And this is what I explain in some of these videos, and how to do that transaction where you're selling the property to yourself. And that's much more extensive. And again, we have helped people accomplish this. And we've had people write their deed by hand, and it gets accepted. You should see some of the old stuff that was done. One of my friends manages the all deeds down in the basement of Los Angeles. Every deed up to 1967. I got to see the land patent books. They're like this tall off the floor. They're like this fat, and I got to see real signatures from presidents, and took a bunch of pictures, and I took pictures of all the deeds, and I'm like, it blew my mind how they used to do deeds. And so why can't we do deeds that way anymore? They wanted to trick us. They wanted to bring us into a legal description instead of the measurements of the land, meets and bounds. And they wanted us to own nothing and control everything. And that's who these guys are. And so by doing what we're doing, we're taking the land back. And that's huge. And it's an awesome opportunity, but it's not as easy as people think, and they will fight you. And every transaction is different.